The United States under President Donald Trump has carried out one of the largest military buildups in the Middle East since the Iraq War. Massive deployments of naval forces, aircraft, and ground troops have been positioned across the region, particularly around the Strait of Hormuz, a critical choke point for global oil supply. This buildup is not accidental. It reflects a deliberate strategy that combines pressure, deterrence, and the credible threat of overwhelming force. At the center of this escalation are large-scale missile and airstrike campaigns targeting Iranian military infrastructure. One of the most significant operations occurred in March 2026, when U.S. forces launched a precision strike on Karg Island, a key Iranian military hub tied to naval operations and shipping control. According to U.S. Central Command, more than 90 military targets were hit, including missile storage sites, naval mine facilities, and logistical infrastructure. This was not symbolic. It was designed to degrade Iran's ability to threaten shipping lanes and project power in the Gulf. These strikes follow earlier operations in 2025 and early 2026 that targeted Iran's nuclear infrastructure, including facilities at Fordow, Natanz, and Isfahan. U.S. officials described the damage as severe, though they acknowledged uncertainty about whether Iran's long-term capabilities were fully eliminated. In other words, the campaign is not a single decisive blow. It is a sustained effort to weaken Iran's military capacity across multiple domains, such as nuclear, missile, naval, and industrial. Here's some footage of fresh missile launches from Kuwait aimed toward Iran. At the same time, troop deployments have intensified fears of a potential ground invasion. Reports indicate that thousands of additional U.S. troops, including Marines and Rapid Response Army units, have been sent to the region. One report notes roughly 5,000 additional troops deployed near the Strait of Hormuz alone, signaling preparation for possible escalation beyond air and naval warfare. However, it is critical to understand what this does and does not mean. Despite the scale of deployments, most analysts do not believe a full-scale invasion of Iran is imminent. Instead, the troop presence serves several purposes, such as securing strategic locations, deterring Iranian retaliation, and giving the White House flexibility if the conflict expands. Even within the administration, there are indications that ground war is seen as a last resort due to its enormous cost and risk. This dual-track approach, overwhelming military pressure combined with strategic ambiguity, is central to Trump's doctrine in this conflict. On one hand, the administration has demonstrated a willingness to use force aggressively. On the other, it continues to signal openness to negotiation, particularly around Iran's nuclear program and missile developments. The military buildup itself is meant to strengthen the U.S. negotiating position, not just to prepare for war.
Hi, I'm Admiral Brad Cooper, Commander of U.S. Central Command, here with my 5th update on Operation Epic Fury. We're in the 4th week of the campaign and remain on plan or ahead of plan in achieving very clear military objectives for eliminating Iran's ability to project power in meaningful ways outside its borders. U.S. forces have struck more than 10,000 military targets. In fact, we hit the 10,000th Iranian target just hours ago. And if you combine what we've accomplished with the success of our Israeli ally, together we have struck thousands more, clearly demonstrating that we're stronger together. Our precision strikes have overwhelmed Iranian air defenses, and our combat flights over Iran are having tangible effects. Here are a few examples. For decades, Iranian warships have roamed regional waters, threatening and harassing global shipping. But those days are over because we've now destroyed 92% of the Iranian Navy's largest vessels. They are not sailing, and my operational assessment is that they've now lost the ability to meaningfully project naval power and influence around the region and around the world. As we've highlighted previously, Iran's drone and missile launch rates are down by more than 90%, meaning their ability to attack American forces and regional neighbors is drastically reduced.
From Iran's perspective, the situation is deeply destabilizing, but not one-sided. Iran retains significant missile capabilities and has already demonstrated its willingness to retaliate. In previous exchanges, Iran launched ballistic missile barrages and drone attacks targeting U.S. assets and allies in the region. These responses highlight that while Iran has taken damage, it is far from devastated in the sense of being unable to fight back. This creates a dangerous dynamic. Both sides possess the capacity to escalate further, and neither can easily achieve a decisive victory without major consequences. Another critical dimension is the role of allies, particularly Israel. Joint U.S.-Israeli operations have increased the scale and complexity of strikes, turning what might have been a limited confrontation into a broader regional conflict. This raises the stakes significantly, as any escalation could draw in additional actors across the Middle East. Meanwhile, the global implications are enormous. The Strait of Hormuz handles roughly 20% of the world's oil supply, meaning any sustained conflict in the area threatens global energy markets and economic stability. The U.S. strikes on Iranian naval and mining capabilities are directly tied to keeping that route open, underscoring how economic strategy and military action are tightly linked in this conflict. So when headlines describe catastrophic missile strikes and an invasion, they are capturing pieces of the truth, but missing the broader strategic picture. The United States has launched large-scale, highly destructive strikes against Iranian military targets. Thousands of troops have been deployed, raising the possibility of further escalation. A full invasion has not yet occurred, and the situation remains fluid, calculated, and highly dependent on how both sides choose to act next. What makes this moment particularly dangerous is that it sits on the edge of multiple possible outcomes. It could de-escalate into negotiations, especially if Iran's leadership calculates that continued confrontation is too costly. It could stabilize into a prolonged standoff, with periodic strikes and retaliations. Or it could spiral into a broader regional war involving ground forces, something both sides appear to be preparing for, even as they publicly avoid committing to it. In that sense, the current strategy is less about immediate conquest and more about shaping the battlefield, politically and militarily, for whatever comes next. And that is what makes it so volatile. The forces are in place. The strikes are ongoing. The pressure is immense. But the final outcome is still very much undecided.